So Ed, anybody who's been paying attention knows that there has been a particularly challenging time in this community with some dangerous dog attacks. I know it's been a challenging time for you and your staff, and I know that the County Commission has been very supportive of looking at this closely and listening to the recommendations that you've made. So tell us a little bit about, why don't we start with the ordinances that protect citizens from dangerous dogs and how those have adjusted.
Yeah, county ordinances, I think we've sort of opened them up and revised them about 3 times since I've been here. So we first outlawed permanent tethering, not only for the benefit of the animal, but also tethered dogs tend to be the most dangerous. They're watching their lives pass by, chained up in someone's backyard. And oftentimes when they do break loose, they go on a rampage and seem to want to bite everything in sight. We put language in there about the community cat program, implemented that. We had already sort of toyed with that, I think, a little bit prior, but we really went at it full force with by putting those, provisions in the ordinance. Stray hold periods were eliminated for puppies under the age of 5 months and for cats for the purposes of, without identification, I should say, for the purposes of expediting live outcomes.
So you can adopt
So we can
same
adopt,
day or,
yeah, exactly, same day or next day.
Okay.
Because those are 2 categories, puppies under the age of 5 months and cats without identification. Those are the 2 categories that hardly anybody ever comes to the shelter to reclaim those.
Gotcha.
We implemented a differential county licensing structure, which basically means that if your animal is sterilized and microchipped, your license is only $10 a year. If it's not sterilized or microchipped, then your license is $40 a year. And we did that in an effort to try to encourage sterilization. I think research shows that something like 75% of the animals that bite are unsterilized animals, particularly unsterilized males. So that was a little bit of a proactive move. We also implemented or put into ordinance a requirement to microchip. Anytime we give an animal back to someone, we microchip it, charge them $10. It's a nominal cost and very important. Enables us to know if that animal should come back to the shelter, who the owner is, and be able to reunite with their owners more quickly. But there's also a requirement in Alachua County that if the animal is sold, adopted, given away, transferred, anything like that, that there's also a requirement for microchipping. Animal Services provides that. Even if the animal doesn't come to us, if you just want to come out one afternoon and have your animals microchipped for $10 a piece, we're happy to do that. We broadened the restrictions against animal exploitation, which mostly applied to some of the traveling shows and fairs that come here, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then more recently, we increased the fines for common violations, animal-related violations, to coincide with those of the city, and allow citations to compound upon previous violations of city codes.
So you don't get one at the city and one at the county. It's the one at the county is the second violation, or vice versa.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And for example, right now, failure to physically control your dog is a $250 citation, because that's what it was for the city. And ours, the county, was something like $75. And so it just made sense, if we were going to compound one on top of the other, that our fee schedule need to line up. By revising the ordinances, the board has also authorized the county attorney to seek injunctions against certain repeat offenses or offenders. For example, if particularly ones that have an adverse effect on the safety and welfare of the public. So if someone continues to let their big, sort of unruly dog get loose over and over again, there's, we have more tools in the toolbox with which to address that. Mm-hmm. We've also strengthened the enforcement of aggressive and dangerous dog ordinances, and we also most recently created the irresponsible pet owner ordinance, which basically means that within a 3-year period, if someone violates a number of the lesser offenses more than twice, or a couple of the, I guess, greater offenses, one or more of the greater offenses within that same period of time, then they can be deemed an irresponsible pet owner. And what that means is that for the almost immediately they have like 30 days to get their animals sterilized, vaccinated, and licensed and microchipped, any that they own at the time, and then they're not allowed to add to their numbers of pets for a 3-year period.
So that's extensive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is a good demonstration of how seriously the board has taken these challenges. I know that the board has also given you, considerable new resources in terms of funding and staff positions. Can you outline that for us?
Absolutely. Our annual budget has been recently increased to include 2 additional field officers, 2 additional investigators, and an additional dispatcher. We also now have, we have an officer on duty on Sundays now for faster response to emergency calls.
So it's not just on call. This is a person who's on the job.
This is a person who's on duty, and of course his first priority would be to handle the emergency calls, but he's also able to make contact with owners that perhaps we couldn't get a hold of during the week because they were working. Mm-hmm. So that's been very valuable. And we're moving towards a plan to increase our coverage hours. I mean, we've already increased. We were doing Monday through Saturday, 8 to 6 every day, and then we had an on-call officer after that, but now we're actually doing 7 days a week with that Sunday officer. So 7 days a week, 8 to 6, but we're moving towards a plan to and trying to get staffed up so that we could handle calls 7 days a week from 7 to 11.
I know there's been great cooperation and conversation with the Sheriff's Office and GPD and others. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important for citizens to understand that whenever they call that, whether it's calling 911 or calling the 955-1818 non-emergency number, mm-hmm. that we are on the job 24/7, whether it's someone sitting at Animal Services or an on-call officer. We're responding 24/7, 365 days a year to calls where there is a possible public safety issue.
Absolutely. We have a dispatcher in the building answering the phone Monday through Saturday, 8 to 6. But then outside of those hours, for Sunday or for after hours or holidays, you can always get a hold of us by, going through the emergency 911 system or the non-emergency number that we mentioned. But we've worked very, very diligently with the county dispatch in order, after some of the stuff that began to happen last fall and then earlier this year, to make sure that nothing slipped between the cracks. So our officers actually now get a text message from dispatch every time there is a animal-related emergency, whether or not they're dispatching law enforcement or fire rescue or something like that, which it didn't always happen that way. What the previous system, the law enforcement or first responders might be dispatched out, and animal services might have been called or they might not have been called, depending on whether law enforcement felt like it was necessary at the time. So what we did now is, like I said, we worked very hard with dispatch to make sure that we were getting all those messages and that we could handle them immediately, because even though law enforcement had gone out and helped to divert the immediate threat, oftentimes with animal welfare, it means that we needed to follow up. Mm-hmm. And we needed to go back and talk to the citizen. Okay, your dog got out, it was running in the road, let's address the larger problem here, and what can we do to encourage you to, or to help you keep it at home and make sure that this doesn't happen again. Or if it was a dog bite situation, the faster we can jump on that and collect affidavits and get stories from everybody who was involved and all the witnesses, the better off we are. And what would happen a lot of times prior is that law enforcement might they might respond, or first responders might respond to a bite incident that happened on a Saturday night. Well, animal control didn't find out about it until Tuesday morning or Monday morning at the earliest. And by then everybody's back to work, everybody's forgotten about this situation, they want to get on with their day. So the faster we can get on it and collect all the relevant information, the more effective we can be. And we've worked very, very hard to make that happen.